Welcome to Battle Brew. I'm your host, Austin Frankenberger, and today is with me,
TJ.
TJ, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Second episode underway right now.
First one turned out really well. I like that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We're just doing this as like a way of being able to tell, people that are in lower enlisted, higher enlisted, kind of like our views on things, share some stories, share some laughs. Tell some truths, I feel like the truth isn't always talked about, so that's what we're here for.
Definitely.
So I know that you're in college right now. That's correct, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
I'm on classes right now.
You're on classes right now.
Yeah.
What are you majoring in?
So my bachelor's is for technical management, and then my associates, which I'm going to finish right after my bachelor's, is for business administration.
How long did those? How long has it been since you started your?
I think I started August of 23. August of 23, I think I began doing everything.
How's that been going for you?
Not too bad. I kind of did the long way because I'm doing 2 different degrees. They correlate with each other, but not all my credits transferred over.
Gotcha.
So it took a little bit longer than what I wanted it to. I thought I'd be done with everything in about a year, maybe a little less. But towards the end of my associates, I decided I wanted to do something more technical, more hands-on.
Yeah.
I think I kind of got that from the military because I was doing real estate previously, a lot of paperwork, and just not something I wanted to keep doing. I wanted to use my hands a little bit. So.
Yeah. What So did you use the benefits of the military to, like the GI Bill?
Yeah. So that's the route I decided to go. There's a couple different ones you can go, but yeah, I decided to use GI Bill.
Cool. Is that process hard?
I wouldn't say hard. Time consuming for sure. It's a lot of snail mail.
Yeah.
So I know when you apply to see what percentage of benefits you get, you can't really start anything till you get them, unless you do want to pay. You can pay out of pocket. You could go the FAFSA route.
Yep.
Some people do like to do that while they're trying to get started with their benefits and everything.
Yep.
Because it does kind of get the ball rolling a little bit, and then it kind of speeds things up a little bit. But I decided to wait for it. I figured, I got the benefits, why not use them? So
yeah. Did like whenever you started the whole process, what made you think of doing it and like starting that route?
So I wanted to do schooling for a long time, but it was really hard when I was active. When I first went active, it was really hard because you're learning a new job, you're getting acclimated to active duty life and moving your family, all that fun stuff. So I kind of put it on the back burner for a while. I didn't want to do that, but I kind of had to. Then months turned to years, and years turned to when am I even going to do it? So I ultimately decided, I was like, I'm just going to wait till I get out.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I was going to go the FAFSA route. I was really contemplating it, but I told myself, I was like, that's just more paperwork, more time. In my head, that's what it was. I found out later that not quite the same thing, but I just decided to get a jump on all my GI Bill paperwork and just focus strictly on that.
So do you think it's better for people just to take that first step to just do it?
Yeah.
Like you're contemplating it, or you're hesitant about it.
Absolutely. So one of the big things is I know a lot of people that have gotten out now that they refuse to do school, and that's their business. Nothing wrong with it, but with the way that everything's going, with everything, you kind of have to have a degree nowadays on the civilian side. The hardest part is getting that first jump, those first couple steps going, and then once you kind of get into it, it's like a snowball downhill. You know what I mean? It seems like a lot, but you get the flow of it. It comes a lot smoother and stuff. You'll have your hard classes, your easy classes, stuff like that.
So the people that are in currently that are thinking about starting, what would be your advice to them for like navigating both work and school and being able to tackle both at the same time? So
what I would say is most people that do school when they're in, it's to get promoted, promotion points and all that stuff. Some of them do it for self-gratitude, and all that. But, if you're doing it for points, I found it's gonna be a lot harder because you're rushing everything, and then, your projects aren't up to par, and, you're failing classes now, stuff like that. What I would say to do is try to do it without a deadline in your head. That's kind of what messed me up too. I thought I could be done really fast.
Yeah.
So I was doing 4 classes at once, doing in-person classes, just trying to speedball the whole thing. And I was able to learn a lot still, but it just made like my civilian life a lot harder. So in the military, it's definitely going to be a lot harder. So I would just say, you know, take it easy, take your time with it. Maybe 1 or 2 classes to start with, especially if you're not that good with schooling and stuff, and especially if you're not that good with schooling online. You know what I mean? Because they are very, very different things. So
is it like a smoother transition if you kind of have that I want to do this attitude, like easier to tackle, you know, the objectives that you're given?
Yeah, if you're doing it for you, it's always anything is going to be easier like that because you know you want to do it. You know, so if there's like mental resistance to it, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. You know what I mean? And it's going to be hard to get up in the morning to go check your classes. You know what I mean? So I would say that's definitely something you have to have. If you're just doing it to get points or whatever, it's going to be rough. You know, you got to kind of want to learn this stuff, at least to start. You know what I mean?
Did you have anybody like helping you walk through the process? Or?
I did not. I kind of had to do everything on my own. There are people that can help with stuff like that, but I had so much going on, I didn't want to make an appointment to go talk to somebody to help me with it, you know? Because when I first started the college stuff, I was also finishing up my real estate classes. So I just didn't have the time for it, but there are tons of resources out there to help with stuff like that. As well as like the school itself, they'll help you with that because they want you to go too. So there's tons of resources out there. And then if you know you're going to do this when you get out, utilize the military for those resources for sure. Like I said, I did all mine after I got out, so that kind of put a damper on things. But yeah, if you're in trying to go do it, there's so many resources, even on most bases and everything. You can go talk to the education center. They got tutors. They got tons of resources to try and help you succeed with that stuff.
Good, that's good. If you were to give advice to somebody that's, you know, doesn't know the right way to start, what would you think the first step would be?
The first step would be if you are active duty, if you're in the service currently, talk to the education center. They do have really good advice, whether you apply it or not. You know, it's good to learn that stuff. If you're on your way out, the transitioning programs that they do, that's where I got a lot of my information from. That's kind of how I knew where to go with it. But with mine, it was a lot of trial by error. You know, you called the wrong phone number, you got the wrong guy, called this guy. A lot of that stuff.
The circle.
Always. So that's kind of the stuff that I was stuck with. So to avoid that, just, you know, utilize resources that they have, and then, you know, start at your own pace. Don't try and get ahead of yourself. Don't try and be Mr. Bad that's doing 5 classes at once and all that stuff, because 9 times out of 10 you'll end up drowning. And then you already didn't want to ask for advice to begin with. Now you're definitely not going to ask for advice to get out of it. You know what I mean? So just take it slow, take it at your own pace. And if you're passing your classes, it'll come a lot quicker than you think.
Now I have kind of like a hot take on this. Do you think, obviously, because I mean, me and a lot of other people, and I'm assuming you feel the same way, there's a lot of classes or different things that we have to learn and sit through on a computer that aren't really relevant to what we're doing. Do you think there should be like a class that teaches, you know, the soldiers, like, hey, this is how you can start schooling and stuff like that, and kind of give them advice rather than, you know, just trying to figure it out?
So one thing that's nice about the military is a lot of the stuff that we do, basic training, AIT, some of the certs you'll get, stuff like that, they do transfer over, and they do kind of eliminate those elective classes you have to do, which is nice because first off, it takes time off, you know, and then also it takes away some of those classes you were just talking about, where they absolutely no point to what you're going to school for and stuff like that. What I try to do with my stuff was still try and do classes that I would like so French. I took French, which was nice. I plan to go to France, you know what I mean?
That'd be cool.
You know, I try to keep it like that, and I try to eliminate the pointless classes as much as possible. Not always possible, so you do have to sit through them, but I feel like the military kind of teaches you that. not directly, but we sit through so many briefs and all that stuff that doesn't even apply to us. You kind of have to have the same mentality for those classes. It sucks that there's work involved, like homework and stuff that are associated with them, but it's the same. I keep the same mindset for it. You know what I mean?
So it's basically, there is stuff that translate from what you learn in the military and like the resiliency and different stuff like that.
Absolutely.
To kind of transitions into schooling and college and different things like that.
So one of the biggest downfalls of it is when you go to a brief, it's an hour, 2 hours of stuff you don't want to hear sometimes. This is 8 weeks of it. so I know it sounds discouraging, but once you do the class, once you pass it, you never have to do it again. You know what I mean? So you just got to kind of fight through it, you know what I mean? And hopefully it comes easily to you. That's the only thing that you can kind of hope for. It's one of those ones that you don't have to do as much studying and all that. So
other than like schooling, because that's a big achievement. Not everybody does it.
Right.
I myself have not done it yet. Do you? What's another like big achievement that you think, or like something that you've done or seen somebody do that you're like that's a wow moment? Like,
so for me, honestly, military-wise, going through AIT is always a big thing for me. Whenever I see new soldiers come in and when you can see how much they've retained actually, because these courses are kind of sped up, you know what I mean? And a lot of times the mentality is you're learning at your unit kind of thing. So a big thing for me is whenever I see like a new soldier come in to my unit or whatever, whenever I see them come in and be squared away and all that, that always kind of, I'm like, damn, this guy might know what he's doing, That's always a big thing to me, because then you get the ones that just kind of breeze through. Those ones aren't so fun to deal with, but the ones that really kind of retain the information and stuff like that, that always gets me. The ones I could just kind of put, at the time I was a 911 Fox.
So what's that for the people that?
Small arms artillery repair. So all the M4s and the crew serve weapons and the howitzers. I got fortunate enough to be put at field artillery unit. So we had the 777s and the M119s. And seeing somebody come in that kind of took the little bit that they teach you and really be able to apply that was a big deal. So, that's always what blew my mind with that stuff, because I saw the training that they gave me.
Yeah.
It was literally one day for the 777s and one day for the 119ers. That was it. So when they came in and they're like, oh, this is that, like, they went out on their own and learned some stuff, you know what I'm saying? Or somebody in their family did that stuff.
Took the time out of
the
day.
That always blew my mind every single time. I've only had like 3 or 4 soldiers to do it. So.
Yeah. I feel like that comes with like good leadership too. Like the soldiers, like you take care of your soldiers, so your soldiers want to take care of you and take initiative to do things and different things like that. Like with leadership, is there like somebody that comes to mind that like changed your perspective on the military, or kind of gave you, an advantage, gave you the right tools to success? So
there's 2 of them from my last unit. They really kind of shaped me to who I am today, actually. One of them was my NCO at the time. I was in E4, he was E5. His name is Munoz. I don't know his first name, but that was the most squared away man I've ever seen. That man came in, he redid all the SOPs for the shop. He redid how we operate, how we move stuff. And I don't think he sleeps because that man, you could call him at 2 o'clock in the morning and he'll say, what's the problem? You know what I mean? And he was also doing school, 2 degrees, you know what I mean? And just a really squared away guy. He's super organized. And the reason why I looked up to him so much is because he was the reason why I was able to go to air assault school. He really helped me with that stuff, helped me with the physical training. He would stay 1 or 2 hours after work to help me run and stuff like that. And he helped me with one of the harder parts of air assault school, which was the cargo bags and stuff like that. He helped me with all that stuff. He checked in on me when I was at air assault school and really got me through that, and then helped me get promoted ultimately, which was nice.
Is there any word of advice that he gave you that kind of like resonated with you, stayed around, you use today that you might say to other people? So
one of the big things was don't fuck it up. And it sounds simple and it sounds stupid, but it stuck with me. So I'll do some things, I'll be, yo, just don't fuck it up. You know what I mean? But he did tell me one time though, he said nothing's gonna be given to you. If you want it, you're gonna have to work for it, you gotta go get it. And I thought about that too, and I said, yeah, that's true. You know, I could sit around all day, but you know, it's not going to put money in my pocket. It's not going to get me promoted. It's not going to help me make friends. It's not going to do anything. You got to put yourself out there a little bit. So
Yeah, I feel like when a lot of people are like, oh, like I wish I could, you know, do this or do that, or I got passed up for this. They just kind of have that like give up, like mentality,
Yeah.
rather than coming back twice as better the next time. That
Yeah.
way, there's no, you know, shadow of a doubt that you
Right.
get picked for it.
yeah, so that's something you definitely gotta, like I said, you gotta put yourself out there, you know. And some people don't take failure so well. Some people take it great. Some people do exactly what you just said. They bounce back. But for the ones that don't, you know, getting discouraged it's a thing. You know what I mean? And it can be crippling. But you really gotta get back on the horse. You really gotta try it again. You know, even if you fail again. You know.
Yeah.
Like I tell a lot of my family members, my son, I told him, I said, you never failed at a single thing in your life. You just learned how not to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of changed his mind with a lot of stuff. So I try to tell that to my soldiers too, try and let that get into their head. And like I said, you know, if you don't do something so well, you just learn how not to do it. Just get back up, do it different. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. So like speaking, you know, of your son, and you know, you're married. What do you think the most challenging part, kind of, with the military and having a family is? Do you think it's more because, like, for me, it's like you're trying not to, you're trying to make it to where everything's okay, even if it's not, and you know, you try to be that strong figure aspect of it, but you don't want it to overwhelm you yourself and get burnt out.
Right.
That's for me is like the hardest thing. But
So one of the things that, for me, my son lives with his mom. So a lot of people are like, oh, that sucks, you know. And obviously I would love to have my son a lot more than I can, but it's kind of a good thing too, because I don't have to worry about, you know, if he's, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm able to show him everything I need to show him still, without him seeing all the negative. You know what I mean? So when I'm gone for the field for 3 weeks, you know what I'm saying? I still call him, you know what I mean? But he doesn't even know I'm in the field, you know?
Yeah.
So in that aspect, it's kind of a good thing. And he's picked up like a lot of my good habits because of that stuff. He doesn't see me walking around swearing all the time, you know what I mean? And all that, you know, the stuff you kind of bring home from the military, you know? He doesn't see me exhausted, you know what I mean? So I explain these things to him, but he doesn't have to see it. And I think that helps him a lot, because he's 15 and he's in high school. He started high school and college at the same time, you know, and he did that because, you know, he sees it, he's around it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He sees that, you know, he asked me, how did I do it? And I can give him advice about it. And I think it has its pros and its cons as far as the family stuff goes. It's definitely rough though. It can, like I've seen the military tear families apart. But I've also seen it, you know, bring people together. You know, you gotta miss your loved ones. You know what I mean? It makes those times when you're together a little bit more special. You know what I mean? As far as my wife and stuff, kind of the same concept. She's ex-military, so she understands, which is really nice. Makes things a lot easier. I don't have to tell her, hey, it's 2 weeks in the field, and what are you gonna do out there? You know, kind of get past all that. And she's okay. Sounds good. Stay safe.
Yep.
You know, and it's kind of like just going to work. You know, like it's a long work day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got its pros and its cons.
yeah, I know. For me, you know, before because we had my daughter and then I got out. But like beforehand, like you make friends with other people, and that kind of becomes your like new like family wherever you're at.
Right.
And you know, having kids now and going to the next duty station, it's like having that ease of mind that there's going to be a lot of people that, you know, can become friends with you because you're far away from your friends from back home or your family and different things like that. And your kids have somebody to, you know, be friends with and go and play, and you're on a military installation or off, and, you know, you kind of can, you know, do a bunch of different things with other families. Do you think that that's like one of the bigger benefactors of, you know, the base is so big, but that means there's a lot of, you know, different families too. Do you think that kind of is like a reason why it's like an intertwined web of different friendships? And
I think having a kid prior and then coming back in, I think that it's going to be something super different for you because you're going to attract a totally different genre of friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna get the dad playing golf, and
Hey, nothing wrong with dad playing golf. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna get the soccer moms.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a lot more mature.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed with the military is when you have the family and you guys are actively trying to grow as a family, you attract a very different genre of friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're no longer going to the barracks to hang out with your buddies. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. So I think that as far as the base being big like that, I almost feel like they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that way you can, I don't know, experience stuff without having to go outside and deal with all, everybody else and stuff like that. So I think it's a really good thing. They put all the parks that are around most posts, you know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, I think you're going to get a very different slew of friends that come in.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be kind of a culture shock.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen for a lot of my buddies and stuff when they have their kids and they go to daycare now, they made daycare friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all that, so.
So we've been talking about like the good side of the military, and I kind of want to, take a pivot and go somewhere else. We talk about at the beginning of the episode, like how we kind of shine the light on truth that a lot of people are like uncomfortable talking about and different things like that. What was kind of like a low moment in the military, like, or something that you think it might have worked out for the better, in the end, but like in the moment you just kind of felt like this is like a crippling.
So when I was in the Guard, which is my initial entry into the military was in the Guard, I went in as 68 Whiskey, a medic, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But a couple years into it, I ended up becoming homeless. And my car stopped working, so I couldn't get to drill. And this was kind of what kind of changed my whole perspective of the military. So when I was calling around for help and stuff, I lived kind of far away already. But I was calling out, I would call my chain of command and stuff and let them know, hey, I'm not trying to come in, but I'm not going to come in. I can't, unless you can send somebody to pick me up. So I thought at the time that there was like a situation that like, I could have sworn they've been in this situation before. You know what I mean? You would think so, I was like 19 or something like that, and brand new to the stuff. And apparently this is a very rare thing, I guess, because they told me, they said, get here and figure it out or don't fucking call me back. I said, that's crazy. And I hung up, and then I couldn't figure it out, so I didn't call them back. So, but at that point I kind of just like, with no direction and no guidance or anything. I've never felt like so high and dry before, you know what I mean? And I didn't even want them I wasn't like trying to get them to help me with my situation because I knew I could figure it out. I just wanted to go to drill so I wouldn't get in trouble, you know what I mean? But how quick they were just like, it's on you. I was like, damn, so that was really what kind of shifted my whole perspective of the military. Because, when you go to the recruiters and stuff, you hear, we're family oriented, we're here for you, we help you. And that's kind of when I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now I've had good times after that, you know what I'm saying? Things that kind of swayed it the other way. I've spent a long time in. But that one was the one that kind of hit me pretty low, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, just getting in trouble with that stuff was wild.
If you treat your soldier like that, fuck you.
Yeah, it was a rough thing. And then, next month came around and then I didn't call them because I was still kind of in the same situation. And then they called me and they said, what time will you be here? I said, I'm in the same exact situation I was last month. They said, you gonna figure it out? I said, that or I won't call you. You know what I mean? And I didn't call them.
Yeah.
I eventually ended up going back and figuring some stuff out, but it was, that kind of hit me pretty heavy with that stuff. Because then I got like my mom calling me and talking to me and she, how's the military stuff going? And it's hard to tell the bad side of your family. You know what I mean? So I kind of tried to hide it or whatever, but she could tell something was wrong with it. So that was a big kind of pivotal point for the military for me.
Yeah, that's wild. And that's sad that it's like that, It kind of seems like we're trying to become more like that family aspect more and more and more. Like we're caring about how people,
Right.
are seeing stuff. And you know, me and Pena talked about this, about how, you know, it's always a good and a bad thing to do that, but you know, it's bad when it gets that far.
Right. Yeah. Especially like what you said, you know, promoting the family stuff and you know, unity ultimately. But it's, yeah, I mean, but then again, what's the saddest part to me is that it is like that, but it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
That's the saddest part to me, is all of that was a choice. They didn't have to tell me that. They could have asked me a million and one different questions. They didn't ask me a single one. You know, they only asked me if I'm coming in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I bet that was kind of like a scary feeling too, because you didn't really know.
yeah, like I said, I was 19. You know, the military, I've heard that, you know, if you get in trouble, get kicked out,
Yeah.
don't even look for a job. You know what I mean? So I was extremely nervous about it, super nervous about that, and like what the repercussions are, and, you know, all that stuff, and then just no answers.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hardest part, is just no answers to it.
So speaking of like scary moments, what would you say is like your scariest moment that you've had, or scariest interaction, or?
So the scariest moment I've had wasn't even, it didn't directly involve me. It involved my soldier, but they flipped a Humvee.
Oh.
And hearing that, I think it was at like 7 or 8 at night or something like that. I'm at home. They're supposed to be in the field because we went out with the gun crews. So they were supposed to be out in the field with them. And yeah, I got a call. Hey, get your ass back here, blah, blah, blah. So I get there. They didn't even tell me what was wrong. I get there and they said, your soldiers flipped the Humvee and he's all fucked up. That's when my heart sank, because I questioned myself, because I'm the one that sent him out. You know what I mean? I thought he could use the training. I thought it'd be really good for him and stuff like that. And then I didn't know how bad he was. You know,
Yeah.
Turns out he's okay. You know, I think he had a busted up arm or something like that. But he did have a concussion, stuff like that. But that was the scariest moment for me, only because like I could have been out there doing it, you know, instead of him flipping it, because I knew I wouldn't have flipped a Humvee. You know what I mean? But I think the scariest part was just like, you know, he's got a family too. You know what I mean? And we do the rough, tough shit with the Army. You know,
Yeah.
and I got my days where I'm really cool about it. You know what I mean? And all that, but. Nobody goes to work to get fucked up.
Yep.
Not a single person. Everybody, you're supposed to leave with all the fingers you came in with, you know?
Yeah.
So to hear that one of my soldiers that I sent out there flipped his Humvee, you know what I mean? I was like, damn, like I contemplated everything. Like, was he ready to go? Did he need more Humvee training? What did I do? You know what I mean? Like shit, you know? And then obviously the negative repercussions that come with that stuff and all that. Like I said, thankfully he was good. I went and sat him at the hospital and stuff like that. And yeah, he ended up being okay, but it, you know, could have been a lot worse, you know what I mean? So I think that was the scariest thing.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too, like how many like accidents happen, and it's shitty when it's like, it seems like we have more accidents in training than we do like casualties somewhere else.
It definitely does seem like that.
Yeah,
for sure.
we you know, when we were in Fort Stewart, when I was at Fort Stewart, we had a group of guys. Bradley flipped off a bridge. It was like a whole bunch of different factors that went into it, and like a lot of it could have been avoided. It's all like, I don't like to blame like higher ups and things like that. Because there's, you know, certain people were blaming certain people for it, and, you know, other people were feeling like it was their own fault. But it kind of came to the point to where I realized then how the higher the officer, the way more political they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have like a good like face for TV. For the people that know, that were, you know, there at Fort Stewart with me in my unit, they know who I'm talking about. But there was somebody on, like, did an interview basically about it, and I remember everybody being like pissed off because that individual was crying for like 15 seconds while they were talking about it, and then right from there was laughing about something else. Jeez, like directly after. So you knew it was all fake. Like they don't know who they are.
Right. Yeah.
So they're just trying to make it look good for the camera. And I remember going to like the the what's it called? The chaplain. What's the actual building called?
I just call it the church.
The church. Okay. Yeah.
I just call it the church.
Like going there, and they like sat us down like in a circle and had like an AA meeting about it. Like they were asking us different things, and nobody wanted to be there.
Right.
And then like they, after that, they went right back into training. Like, and it's sad to see because like, you know, we lost 3 people, and it was like all like their rank was, you know, private all the way up to one of the sergeants that he's been in for a while. Jeez. And that's kind of the crazy thing too, is like, even though like I might not have been like close with one of them, like everybody in that unit was so close niche that they had so many different friends in there. And they were the 2 were young. I think both of them were younger than me. I know at least one of them was. But yeah, it's just it's crazy that you remember times like that and see how people react.
Right.
And like I remember his name was Sergeant Jenkins. He always had a saying, like whenever he would be coming in somewhere and wanted to get by somebody, he'd say, "Friendly coming in." And so like it was, you always hear it through the day. It didn't matter who it was that he was talking to. And then everybody was posting after that, like saying that. So it was great to see that. And Walker was the one that was the closest to my age. He was a funny dude. He was a nut, but you know, he was just newly married. And then Garcia, this was after we came back from Korea. And so this would have been like right when Walker was in Korea for a little bit longer. But when he came back, that's when we went and started doing more trainings again. Like they started amping up again. I don't know if it's because it was like we were going to go somewhere again or whatever it may be. But this was at the point where I was like getting out. I wasn't at the actual training when it happened. I got a phone call about it. And like I can't even imagine the people that were there, my friends that were there, and like talking about it afterwards with them. But yeah, it was just crazy. It was crazy for many different reasons. Like I said, like some things could have been prevented from, you know what I'm talking about, if you know the people that were there, and hearing the stories and different things of that nature. But you know, you kind of get that sense of figuring out like the political side of the military, especially with those higher ups.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you said too. Like, it's almost like a punch in the face to the families when they can tell that too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You get the 15 seconds of crying followed by a joke or something. There's you know, they're laughing, and it's a punch in the face to the families when that stuff happens. You know.
Yeah. Do you think we're kind of easing off of that now, or do you think it's even worse now?
In what aspect?
Like it being more of like political than you know. That's
a good question. The political side's always going to be there. I think they just change their tactics to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They might sway one way or another depending on, you know, what the overall agenda would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that like in that previous situation, when somebody passes away, there's always a level of sadness. You know what I mean? But to have somebody go on TV and have somebody make, you know, somebody that's never met this kid or any of these kids, you know, I think we're swaying away from that a little bit. They try to make it a little bit more personal now. You know, they'll have somebody from a unit, you know, higher up from, you know, Italian or something, at least, you know, somebody that's had some kind of interaction with them. I think they're kind of going more towards that nowadays.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen personally, I could be wrong, but yeah, I think they're trying to make it a little bit more sentimental.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like, just being here and coming back in, it was kind of like I talked with Penny, it was kind of like a eye opener of how everything's changing now. And like, speaking of like changing, like what my MOS and your MOS, they're different, but it's the same series.
Yeah, same ballpark.
And kind of like that seems like that's the direction that the military is going now.
Strongly too.
Yeah,
is what it seems
like heavy.
Yes. I mean, they told us at the beginning of our briefs, field artillery is always going to be a thing, but we're kind of shifting focus to the skies now and stuff like that. And I kind of felt like they were going to do that when they established Space Force, because we already have an Air Force. You know what I mean? So I kind of figured that with Space Force we were going to kind of get away from the. I like to think of it as like the old school way. You're shooting cannons at each other and shit. Running at them with swords and whatnot.
Standing in lines.
Yeah. Got a shield and a damn bayonet. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I think of when I think of old Army now. But yeah, it seems like now technology is advancing. Weapons are getting more powerful. You know what I mean? And so I messed with the Patriot system. I know it's been around for a long time, but it seems to be different now. They come out with different rockets for it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think just with the way that technology is going, with the way that, because it's not just for us, other countries are advancing their technology as well. So, I think they're trying to, create more distance, to get away from the ground and pound that we used to do.
Yep.
So
I know where you're going next. Do you think, or let me ask you this, what would be like your dream duty station? Like if you could pick to go somewhere right now, no matter if it's MOS, in our MOS realm or not, what would be like?
Definitely overseas.
Yeah.
I've been to Germany just for a month and a half, and I loved it there. But I would want to go probably either Germany or Italy because I want to be as close to France as possible.
Yeah.
So I'd say one of those two, but I have no idea what the units are like there or anything like that. So I say
I
that.
just want to go to sightsee, but
I say that with zero research on any of them. But like I said, when I was in Germany, I loved it. The units that were there seemed pretty standard Army stuff, So, I think I would say so. Italy, mostly for sightseeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think they're airborne out there, so I don't think I would mind that too much either.
Yeah, I'm a big foodie person.
Yeah.
So I like trying, different cultures' foods and different countries' foods. And like a goal of mine is just to travel.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be whenever I retire, or it could be, I don't know, in a couple years. But I want to go do like a whole Euro trip. And
that would be awesome.
And if the Army sends me somewhere, over there, hey. I'll take a free trip. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's what I was telling my wife. I was like, not too many people get the opportunity, all expenses paid, to go outside the country. You know what I mean? And then when you're out there, flights are cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can go all over out there. Take your little 2 weeks and go around. You know what I mean? And
it's like you were saying, like it's like dependent on like the unit though too. It could suck. I mean, sometimes you just got to embrace the suck.
So the way I see it is, it could suck, because that's what my wife asked me. She said, "How do you feel when you go? What if the unit's bad?"
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, I don't think it's going to bother me because I think everything around it, you know what I mean? Between the sightseeing, the new animals I'm going to see out there, all this stuff. I think that's going to make it okay, even if it's a bad unit. You know what I mean? That's how I feel towards it. That's the mentality I'm trying to keep.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to change or not in a couple months, we'll see. But I think it won't be too bad.
Yeah, that's a good mentality to have. Is there anything else like you would like to give, like a tip to like a soldier that we talked about schooling and different things like that? Would you have like a tip for a soldier to like better themselves, taking that next step, advancing, going above their peers? So
if you're a new soldier and going to a new unit, a lot of them get kind of flustered with everything going on, and then some do want to start college and stuff like that. Take your time. You know what I mean? Acclimate, get to know your unit, get to know some of the people there. Give it a couple weeks. It's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Take a breath. You know what I mean? Odds are you're probably in a new place. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy some stuff before you before you go balls to the wall, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing is just take a step back, you know,
Yeah.
let it
Easy,
mellow
yeah.
out a little bit, you know.
Yeah, because I feel like going to a new unit, you're always like, especially new people coming in, like they're always nervous about it, like taking that step in. But I feel like it's just you're rolling with the punches.
Absolutely.
Like not everybody's gonna have a bad time when they go to their unit.
Right.
And especially if you have the right leadership, like it's easier to go into because they kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah. But now that experience is going to be shot down pretty hard if you're going there trying to start school and you're moving your family and your kid's getting sick and just so much shit on your plate.
Yeah.
It's going to make any positive experience seem negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're not going to have time to absorb the good. It's going to be so much bad for so long, you know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, I'm at this shit unit, but somebody else is going to come and it's going to be a great place. You know what I mean? So yeah, just take a step back, let it all kind of mellow in a little bit. Don't take too much time because then you're going to get lazy. But you know, let it mellow in, let stuff kind of figure itself out. And I can guarantee, even a bad unit, if you let that happen, you let it, you know, just kind of ease into it, it's not going to be as bad as people say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, TJ, I appreciate you coming on today.
Appreciate you having me.
Until next time, I'm Austin, and this is Battle Brew.